13th, 2025. We'll start with Pledge of Allegiance. Speak loud. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty.
Now that Sean has fixed those flags.
Yeah. If anybody wanting to participate on the Zoom platform tonight, I should have started with that. Then go to the Harpswell, tonight's agenda, and you'll get all the information you need there. All right, adoption of the agenda. We have one change.
Yeah.
Shoreland zoning ordinance amendments. We're going to move that up to 5.5 right after consent agenda.
Yep.
Yep. All right, that's done. Public comment? Nope. Select board announcements.
Not me.
Oh, holy moly. Town administrators report?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. I did want to announce tonight that we have another town employee retiring, and this is going to be Greg King, who has worked for the town of Harpswell for 26 years this March,
Holy moly.
and he is
Gee.
planning to retire at the end of April 2025. So we thank
what we're
him
gonna do.
for all his good work, and just wanted to make sure you were aware of that.
Wow, I wasn't, but now I am.
Okay. And I'm going to say that concludes my report for tonight. I know we have a pretty busy agenda, so
Oh, okay.
we can get right to it.
All right, consent agenda.
Oh, I move the consent agenda, which is the approval of the minutes and authorization of warrants and accepting Spike's resignation. I don't think he needs to resign, but anyway, we accept it. That's my motion.
Second.
All in favor?
I-
All right. All right, shoreland zoning ordinance amendments. That was quick, huh?
You guys are gonna get me home by bedtime tonight, if I like it or not.
I think it's too late.
So I've never done this before. Should I just be introducing my amendments? Okay.
Yep.
First, you introduce yourself.
Margaret McIntyre, interim town planner. We started on a journey to update the shoreline zoning maps. It was prompted by the update of our FEMA floodplain flood insurance rate maps that were adopted last June at the special town meeting. As a part of that process, we worked on updating our shoreline zoning ordinance and also the definitions addendum to be more in line with Chapter 1000, which is the DEP's mandatory shoreline zoning guidelines. The maps at this point are still not ready to be voted on. We're still working on them, amending them. I don't think, that's still a workshop in progress. But we are ready to move forward with some of these amendments to shoreline zoning and to the definitions addendum. The majority, they have been called housekeeping amendments. So they're not supposed to be substantive, but the big changes are we reorganized Section 3 of the shoreline zoning ordinance, which tells you what the ordinance applies to. We moved part of the definition of freshwater wetland from shoreline zoning to the definitions addendum. In Section 13.1, which is resource protection, we changed one section. It's what the DEP recommended. Instead of saying all areas in a velocity zone were resource protection, now it's areas in a 100-year floodplain, which means a velocity zone or an AE zone. So anybody in the flood zone might qualify for that category. And then the other big change that we made that really affected both ordinances is under the DEP's recommendation, we got rid of highest annual tide as the boundary of a coastal floodplain, and instead we're recommending highest astronomical tide. And that really is not a big change, but highest annual tide was done on a database made by the DEP that they stopped updating in like 2018. highest astronomical tide is done by NOAA, and those tables are good for at least 30 years. And it's a change of approximately like 2.5 inches.
Wow.
So, any questions?
No? I don't.
All right.
David? Jane?
No?
No?
Margaret, did you just want to mention, in terms of process, there was a public hearing already by the planning board?
Yes, there was a public hearing on January 29th at the Harpswell Community School.
We heard.
And then the planning board met last night to recommend these to the select board.
Yep.
Thank you. So I think you can decide now,
Yeah.
if you'd like, or you can wait until we're down in section 9 of the agenda, but the recommendation from the planning board is that the select board take this forward to the town meeting, and you can consider that.
Yes.
Get it over with now.
Yeah, I move that we add this to the warrant.
Second.
All in favor?
Great, thank you.
There you go. All right, Harpswell Heritage Land Trust grant application regarding the community gardens and
Oops.
authorization to recruit.
Hey, hi, Susan Stemper. This is the annual request for permission or approval from the Select Board to submit the Community Gardens grant request to the Land Trust. We do this each year. They are our primary source of funding. Other than that, we fund from our reserves. Pretty standard request, consistent with prior years. Any questions about the grant request? Nope.
Nope.
Okay, we are also requesting permission to begin recruiting for the staff position at the garden. We pretty much do that every year, and asking for permission now would likely result in an ad being run in the next issue of the Anchor, just FYI.
Yeah.
I had one question about that. Is that a town employee?
Yes, that position is employed through the town, but they are paid through our own monies. So the town is the
So-
employer of record because we are not an entity in and of ourselves.
So I'm looking at all of the things that we pay for insurance and unemployment and all that. This person covered under all that stuff? And
Yes,
deductions
it's
are
a
made?
part-time position, but, so there's no fringe benefits, but certainly workers' compensation and unemployment compensation, were they to come to that kind of an end with us.
Well, I'll make two motions because there are two different things here. One is that we approve the grant application,
Second?
All in favor?
right? And that we approve the posting and recruiting for a community garden coordinator.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Right?
Thank you once again.
It was easy. All right, letter to Department of Environmental Protection regarding continuing PFAS monitoring.
So, Mr. Chairman, we have Paul Solselski joining us tonight. He's participating remotely,
I guess so.
and he is a member of the Restoration Advisory Board, and that is a group that really monitors the environmental conditions at Brunswick Landing. He serves as the town of Harpswell's representative. He's reporting to you tonight on some of the work that that group has been doing in light of the PFAS issue that occurred in August, and he's also recommending that the town send a letter to Maine DEP, making sure that the monitoring continues of the problem that occurred, and particularly from Harpswell's perspective, the impact on the Harpswell Cove area and the marine waters and resources of Harpswell. So let Paul join in.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I am in Harpswell in spite of the background of my picture. I thought you might enjoy seeing a warmer scene right now. So
a
I
little
changed the
jealous, actually.
background. But yes, as Christy said, I'm your representative to BACSI, the Brunswick Area Citizens for a Safe Environment, and the Restoration Advisory Board, overseeing the Superfund cleanup at the former Brunswick Navy base. And So I'm appearing here with you today to report recent findings and recommendations related to the August 19th, 2024 PFAS containing aqueous film forming foam, or AFFF, release from Hangar 4. Navy is currently the owner of that hangar, and MIRA is the Mid-Coast Regional Redevelopment Authority is the custodian of that. As you know, there was a huge spill in Hangar 4 that occurred on August 19th of last year, with 60,000 gallons of water mixed with 1,600 pounds of the aqueous film-forming foam containing PFAS. So I'd like to bring you up to date on that. Next, I'll give ask some questions and give you some answers. So first, I thought you would want to know what sampling has been done to monitor the dispersal of the spill. That's, of course, of major concern to us. It should be. So sampling of the biota in the immediate drainage area of the base, which by immediate, I mean the Maraconic Stream, Mare Brook, and the proximal part of Harpswell Cove, very close to the outlet into Harpswell Cove, where there is close enough that there's some tidal influence, was conducted prior to the spill. And post-spill, where possible, surface water, shellfish, and fish were sampled and tested 2 weeks post-spill and in December. So what are the general conclusions of that we can say regarding the spill? And I'll quote from the Navy's own documents, and I quote, "The release of firefighting foam greatly increased the concentration of PFAS, which is the one that most concerns the biota, in fish and the affected parts of Maraconic Stream and Mare Brook," end quote. And then, quote, "PFAS is gradually moving through the watershed, and most of the containment mass has already passed through the system," end quote. Well, what does that mean? Passing through the system means into Harpswell Sound, okay? They admit that. And then the data suggests, and I quote, "The August 19th AFFF release continues to discharge residual contamination into the stormwater system through the drainage system and into Harpswell Cove." So what are the results? First, there's little data that reflects transmittal of PFAS in Harpswell waters through base drainage. The lack of data should concern us all and elicit our response. Here is what we do know about post-spill biotic contamination, because the Navy has conducted some sampling of surface water, shellfish, fish, those three. Here's what we know about the post-spill biota. First, Harpswell Cove shellfish tissue sample analysis by the Maine Department of Environmental Protection. Lab results from the November samples were expected to be returned in March 2025, so we don't even have those yet. And at the recent RAB meeting, the Navy made it clear that, well, partial of it is lab complications, and partial of problems with the lack of more sampling is weather related. There was a sample taken in November in near Harpswell Center, and of shellfish tissue, but no results have been given yet. That is the farthest south that any samples were taken. In the Mare Brook drainage near Osprey Lane, which is barely tidal, values of PFAS are between 13 and almost 4 nanograms per gram. All of this is above the 3.5 nanogram per gram fish tissue action level. And those samples were taken between 9/9 and 9/23. And then in the Mariconic Stream, Merritt Brook, and Picnic Pond, fish tissue samples were taken. The samples there range from 28 to 298 nanograms of PFAS. And in the Mariconic Stream, after the spill, ranged from 528 to 4,687. And downstream, the concentrations fell off, but were still high. Now, this is the part of the drainage system from the base that goes into Harpswell Cove. Prior to the spill, 27 of 33 fish samples were greater than 3.5 nanograms per gram. That means that there's a do not eat advisory for those types of levels. Now, that's before the spill. So those do not eat advisories have been maintained since the spill, because obviously they're astronomically higher since then. Okay, well, how about Harpswell Cove fish tissue sample analysis? There have been none done in Harpswell waters. How about surface water testing in Harpswell waters? Well, marine water samples on the opposite shore from Princess Point Road, which is in our territory, right? Princess Point Road is not. That's part of Brunswick, but the opposite side of that is Harpswell. Had PFAS concentrations from 53 parts per trillion in 823, and between 158 and 162 between 826 and 94, and then they decreased to 75. All of these are high levels. I think it's worthy of saying that at the last RAB meeting, there were a number of Princess Point residents that have all had privately paid for sampling for PFAS and PFOS in their well water, and all were high. Now, there is a possibility in some cases that high levels in well water can be related to septic tanks. But in one case, the only case with a new homeowner that hadn't even used a septic tank, they came up with the same results. So the Navy said they would investigate. That's what they said. They would not, at this point, they said they would meet with the homeowners and determine the cause and possible remedy for them. But the fact that, the PFAS and PFOS levels are so high in Princess Point wells, I think points to the fact that there have been higher levels down into Harpswell Sound. So I have there are a lot of numbers here, but I have some recommendations for you. As you know, prior to the spill, I reminded you of the danger of PFAS in stored AFFF in base hangars and recommended a strong letter to the Navy encouraging its removal because it was a threat to our fisheries. This letter was joined by Brunswick. You declined to send the letter, and the spill occurred just as I predicted it might. The town needs to take a more proactive stance regarding the Navy to ensure our waters are protected. I applaud you for the new letter that you're going to send to Maine DEP. However, the letter, as it's considered now, has a limited distribution list. To be effective, comments need to go higher up. Please consider further distribution of your concerns to at least to include our elected state representative in the governor. Additionally, more sampling needs to be done in our waters. You can see how from what just the brief summary I've given, how very little we know. I would suggest considering moving the funds for PFAS sampling at Mitchell Field. I believe Christy told me there had been some funds designated for that. Moving those funds to sampling in Harpswell marine waters. of shellfish, surface water, biota. If this is something that interests you, I can get you a cost breakdown on what it would cost for individual surface water or sediment or shellfish or fish samples. And if that's something that interests you, then we can work with the Marine Resources Committee in deciding where those samples should be taken. But I firmly believe the Navy is going to be, even with strong encouragement, not going to do detailed sampling. Now, there might be some private sampling going on that I don't know about, but I've done some inquiring, and I don't know of any so far, but I'll continue to look into that. I'd also encourage the Marine Resource Committee to request sampling of PFAS, PFOS in fish and shellfish from our waters. I think it would be good if they heard not just from the selectmen, but also from our Marine Source Committee, because, I mean, that's actually what we're trying to protect is the marine resource. And then finally, I'd like to let you know that there will be a Baxi open house in the Brunswick Town Hall at 6 p.m. February 24th. I believe Christy attended our last one. Didn't you, Christy?
Yes.
Yeah. Baxi members will be on hand to answer questions from area citizens, both from Brunswick or Harpswell. And I encourage you to send a town representative, as attendance will no doubt be noted, if not taken, I don't know, by the Navy as additional. They won't be taken by them, but they may get an attendance list. And your participation would be an additional expression of our concern about Harpswell Cove. As you can see, the effects of the spill are not fully known yet. A lot of the samples taken are still being analyzed. We're thinking by next month, we should know more. As soon as we know more, including that most southerly one near Harpswell Center, I'll let you know. But that's all I have for now, unless you have some questions for me.
You said February 24th, 6 o'clock at the
6
Brunswick Town
p.m.
Hall.
at Brunswick Town Hall, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
How much more sampling has been done at Picnic Pond? That was remediated 2 years ago, wasn't it?
Yes, and I think all that was removed from ponds A, B, and C has been carted off-site, tons and tons of it, to some center in another state, except for some in one, I think it's Pond C. Of current, I think it's fair to say that for years we've been worried, and Baxi has been worried and about groundwater transmission through the drainage system and through its storm water system. And for a long period of time while I've been on the committee, which is, I don't know, 8 years maybe, or more, for a long time, they poo-pooed the idea that was happening. But now they've accepted the fact that that is happening, and a source for PFAS going down and into Harpswell Sound, which is very interesting because they spent millions remediating those ponds, only to find out that now the pollution is going into the remediated ponds. They've initiated an extensive survey of the drainage system on base. I mean, it's very extensive, and parts of it are very poor condition. There has been some TV video through some of the pipes that show that groundwater gets into the stormwater system through cracks and that sort of thing. But they've decided to go through a thorough investigation of the drainage condition of the drainage system, and I assume that'll follow with some repairs, which should help things in the future. But there's still AFFF, PFAS on base. And I think it's the only unactive base that still has it in the country. I think the Defense Department has had it removed from everywhere else. So, I mean, we need to continue to encourage them to eliminate it as soon as possible. And we've seen what happened when they didn't remove it when we warned. Baxi warned, I don't know, since I've been in it, about the problems of potential spill. There was a major spill a few years ago, not as big as this one, which they didn't recognize or even report, but we proved by our independent sampling in Harpswell Cove, some of which I did myself, along with David Page from Brunswick. So, we need to be more active in trying to look after our own interest is really the bottom line.
All right. Any questions? I don't see why not.
Go ahead.
Do it.
Depends on what you're going to say.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to thank this gentleman as a citizen of Harpswell. What you're doing is really profound. And we have a whole marine resource industry that is dependent upon clean water and a clean natural resource. And if the bottom was to fall out of it, because people said, well, if I eat clams or shellfish, it has PFAS in it, I'm not going to eat it anymore, it would have a long-lasting and extraordinarily detrimental impact on this community. We should be pressuring our congressionals. We should be on the back of Brunswick, and we ought to be demanding answers for this stuff. When I was the planning director for Brunswick, we saw these planes being sprayed with all kinds of chemical agents for de-icing, for all kinds of stuff. And you could see the creek and all the drainage going right into Harpswell waters. But not only does it do that, what this gentleman has pointed out is it seeped into the groundwater. It seeped into the water. And it's now in the groundwater table, and it's slowly moving. So even if you stop it all now, that stuff is all still there, and it's all moving toward the bay. So please, I just want to thank you again, and I really hope that you will get on the bandwagon on this thing and put the screws to Brunswick and to the Navy and to our congressionals. Thank you.
Well, if I could just say, Brunswick has really changed in the last year. They've been very proactive and have initiated a great deal of oversight of mirror, which I think is going to help. I think the changes in administration that have occurred there recently have really paid off in terms of getting the Navy and Mirror's attention.
Great.
Yep.
Spike Heibel. It's Heibel night, I guess. I echo what Amy says. Thank you for being on this for so long. You did mention that we should transfer funding for any PFAS testing at Mitchell Field out to the other side. And I would suggest that both sides need to be checked, because not only did the base have its PFAS issue, but Mitchell Field was storing PFAS as well. And there has been some minor detection of it there through the community garden dug well. And now we are, and I think I see Don Miskell over there. We're on planning to have Friends of Casco Bay or a Casco Bay keeper do monitoring of several sites at the waterfront at Mitchell Field, and we should continue that as well. You just can't walk away from that one either, because they had that stuff. I don't know if the records say whether it was certainly tested there to see how the system worked. People who've been here longer than me know whether there was any fires that had to be dealt with, but I don't think so. But, yeah, we should keep the Mitchell Field side going as well, because there's a lot trying to happen down there.
What was the, what's being used as a garden shed was the fire extinguisher for the site, and they stored AFFF there. And there has been some found in the dug well that was there, that was originally used. So there's some around there.
All right.
Yep.
Yep. Well, on the base, for decades, firefighting foam was used for practice. In the 60s, you'd always see big plumes of black smoke coming up. They
Sure,
were,
right.
they're practicing putting fires out, but the foam has been there for 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, so it's not new.
Yeah, so a couple of things I want to mention. I recently asked the gentleman at DEP, and he's been very involved with issues on the base. Ivor, can't think of his last name at the moment, but he's copied on this letter. I asked him to review all the information that we had on the community garden at Mitchell Field. He reviewed everything, and he said, as long as that dug well is not used at Mitchell Field, the Navy came in, tested the well that the Navy put in before the property was turned over to the town of Harpswell. That did not have PFAS. So as long as we continue to use that as a water source for the garden, he looked at all kinds of tests. We had taken some soil tests there, and he said that could be used for the community garden as long as we did not use the dug well. So that made me feel a lot better, but I did propose putting $5,000 in the Mitchell Field budget because I had gone to this meeting in Brunswick, and I learned a lot about their concerns through the stormwater management system. And I just wonder at Mitchell Field if some of that has also become an issue. Now, as you mentioned, Casco Bay Estuary Partners, they are doing some sampling at the base of the drainage at Mitchell Field. So I don't believe we have those results yet. And I don't know if we want to do some additional testing at some point. But I did think we should have some money in that Mitchell Field budget for the purpose of being able to test and to really perhaps develop a more comprehensive monitoring program. But we do need specific expertise around that, and you have to use certain labs, you really want to do it right. So this idea that we would test other areas, we have a $5,000 budget. I don't know if we want to make that available to Mitchell Field and other parts of Harpswell. I don't really know where we're going with the cost of this kind of monitoring program or testing program.
I would think, I don't know, Paul, I also want to express appreciation on behalf of the whole town, as has been done from people in the community, for what you're doing and what you have done for so many years. It's invaluable, and without you or another person with your background doing this, we would be in a very different place. What I know we're coming up to town meeting in just a couple of weeks, but Paul, do you have any ballpark of what the kind of testing you were describing would cost for Harpswell Cove?
How much time do we have before you would have to have that number for town meeting?
Tomorrow.
Well,
Tomorrow.
ASAP. The budget,
No.
we're having another meeting with the Budget Committee next Tuesday, so
By
It can be a
Tuesday,
ballpark. It
yeah,
can be
just a ballpark. It doesn't have to be
Right.
definitive, but we're talking about
Right.
$5,000 or $30,000 or, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I can have a ballpark number by Tuesday.
Great.
Yeah, I'll try to do that. Another option might be to just amend the Mitchell Field $5,000 to include also sampling in Harpswell Cove. And if that money is all used up, then, if we don't, I'm just saying that's an option if we can't get a number for you to make a separate earmark for Harpswell Cove in time for the meeting. I don't know.
But, you know, if we do that, there's only 5,000 in the budget. That's only 2,500 for Mitchell Field, and 2,500 for Harpswell Cove or up there. So if you could possibly get a ballpark number by Tuesday, that way we could leave Mitchell Field alone and.
Yeah. I asked Christie about the Mitchell Field. Evidently, that money can't be used for anything offshore Mitchell Field. Is that correct?
No, it could be related to Mitchell Field, anything related to Mitchell Field.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So,
Well,
could
that's
be
good.
used, water, land.
I
Yeah.
think I think maybe Don can correct, but we have 3 samplers are going to be taken at Mitchell Field. So if you, I don't know how many being thought of for Harpswell Cove and in upper part of the Sound, but that would be, if you doubled that, if you took 6 samples, you'd have 10,000, roughly. I mean, that's the only way you could extrapolate right at the moment.
I mean, what price were you getting per sample?
I have no idea. I'm just
Yeah.
going off the
We're
5,000.
just using a
Oh, okay.
ballpark figure right now.
Ballpark of 5,000
Yeah.
for Mitchell Field. So if you,
I mean, when, David Page, the emeritus chair of chemistry from Brunswick, and I sampled in Upper Harpswell Cove with proving the initial spill. So, I mean, I know those, I can get those numbers very
Good.
quick,
Yeah,
but they're a few years old. I'll see what I can come up with by Tuesday.
that would be much appreciated. That will at least give us an option of looking to move forward on it in the coming year.
Yeah, some will cost more than others. For example, shellfish or fish versus water. I think probably the fish tissue samples are going to cost more. So I'll try to get an idea. We might have to concentrate, I think, more on the shellfish.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. That makes sense.
Okay.
regarding this proposed letter, Paul may want to weigh in on it.
Yeah.
There's a couple places down on the bottom where it says we encourage early removal. I'd like to say we strongly encourage
Yeah, sure.
early removal. That is, in my book, we got to get the AFFF out of here.
Yeah, all early, these strongly recommend early removal of all AFFF
Right.
from Navy or Mira property, because it's on both,
Right.
I
Yep.
think I don't know I don't remember the exact wording there,
It's
but,
both, yeah.
yeah,
It says,
okay.
yeah, Mira and Navy. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Now, next to the bottom paragraph, I have read it 15 times and I don't understand it. Maybe the target of this letter would understand it, but it says, we're concerned that the resources are made available for a timely evaluation of the downstream Hangar 4 and 6 PFAS regarding the concentration and extent of dispersal into Harpswell Cove.
Hangars 4 and 6.
Hangers,
Yeah,
S,
yeah.
maybe the S there would
Yeah.
make that
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, hangers
legible.
4 and 6.
4 and 6. And then
Yeah,
downstream hangars 4 and 6. PFAS.
I think there's
Still, it's
some.
funny.
There's a hangar, let's see, hangars 4 through 4, 5, 6, and maybe there's a hangar 7. I think more than just 4 and 6 have it, but I'm not sure. I think just mentioning 4 or 6 is fine because that's where the bulk of it was. Oh, by the way, all of it's been currently all of it's been removed from Hangar 4. That's where the big spill was.
Mm-hmm.
The Navy has gone ahead and removed all of it, but you saw the spill coverage from all around that hangar, right? With the people with inadequate employees with inadequate
Sweeping it
protection
into the storm drain.
up to their chest in foam,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, so it's all over up there and traveling its way slowly down towards us,
I would also like to see this CC'd to some elected representatives, and maybe to Casco Bay Estuary and Friends of Casco Bay.
Yeah, excellent, yeah. Now, you still have on record that earlier letter that I mentioned
Yes.
that had an extensive CC list. You might drag that out of the file and see the CC list. That might give you some ideas of additional people you might want to send it to.
Yep.
Could you, I'm just looking at the note I made when you were talking earlier, Paul. Did you also recommend that we, oh, I've got it, the Marine Resources Committee
Yeah.
weigh in
Yeah.
on this, yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
I think
that's a
that's
good idea.
important. Yeah.
Yeah.
And for them to correspond with their state corresponding entity. I forgot the name of it, but there's a similar state body for marine
Department
resources.
of Marine Resources.
Resources,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am noticing in our current warrant, also have $5,000 for marine resources and shellfish conservation activities and projects. I'm not sure if they have a specific project in mind, but that potentially could be
Yeah.
used for
Yeah.
testing. So we might be able
Maybe some.
to cover
yeah.
that, cover some of that.
Usually, a lot of that is used for clam seeding, isn't it?
Some years
Has
it
been,
is, some
yeah.
years
Oh.
it's not, so.
Oh, I see.
Our marine wardens also, they do meat samples of hard shell clams, soft shell clams, along with our harbor master. That's part of their
Yeah.
duties at water sampling. They've been doing up in the bay.
And have they been doing PFAS?
It gets sent to the state, I'm not sure.
I don't know. I know they have to go to specific labs for PFAS testing,
Yeah.
and it does get more expensive.
Yeah.
Right.
All right?
So we will have some editing of the letter and addition of circulation. And just a very minor point, my middle initial is not S, it's
Oh,
G.
I move that,
Apologies.
I move that with the noted edits that we approve the sending of this letter.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Change your middle name?
Thank you so much, Paul.
Yeah,
Well
you're
done.
welcome.
Appreciate
I'll be in
it.
touch.
Thanks-
Okay.
thanks a bunch.
Much appreciated, Paul, thank you.
And on that note, set the dates for the 2025 commercial shellfish lotteries.
Oh, good segue.
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
So the town clerk is making a recommendation.
Yeah, I move that we set Monday, March 31st at 5 o'clock for the shellfish lottery.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Now the fun stuff.
Pile of stuff here.
2025 budget and draft town meeting warrant.
Yes, so the latest budget is $7,833,477. This represents a 6.5% increase on appropriations from the prior year. There were some changes, around $33,000 in total, I think, between the budget that was reviewed with the Budget Committee and the one we're at now. They are meeting on Tuesday. We also want to bring them up to speed on articles that use unassigned fund balance, the proposed potential bond article, and so we will be updating them on some of the decisions you make tonight. At this point, we aren't suggesting any more changes to the appropriation side of the budget. So all of the funding data works its way into the town meeting warrant. And we have a template that we've been using for a number of years. During COVID, we went to, combining articles that, I think our voters didn't particularly care for it, but during that time period.
Did what we had to.
Yeah, we managed that way, but this warrant is sort of back to Harpswell's more traditional style. We have sort of some of the policy questions up front is typically what we try to do, especially if they're new policy questions. Then we have departmental budgets, then kind of morph into capital areas, and then sort of our maybe more housekeeping pro forma issues at the end.
Right.
So in front of you tonight is the latest draft. We, the staff, need to get feedback from the board tonight because the annual town report in Harpswell has been mailed to all of our residents prior to the town meeting. So we're up against a deadline with the
Right.
printer. I do think people need to understand that the warrant that is printed in that town report is not the final official warrant. We try to get it as close as possible, but there are things that happen between now and the night that you sign the final warrant that we can't always predict. So I think when you're discussing these additional articles tonight, just keep in mind that we are looking for guidance on what to put in the printed
Right.
version of the warrant. This warrant tonight and the one that's on the website, we've highlighted the areas that were kind of newer articles and where you had made some monetary changes. So I think the first one that I would bring to your attention is Article 4, and this had come to the board previously. Harpswell Aging at Home is interested in leasing the former concession stand at Trufant Somerton Field for a storage building for up to 5 years. Again, the board does not have the authority to enter into multi-year contracts, so this is on there to get the authority from the town meeting for the board to be able to do that. Article 5, we had been in some discussions with David Moody, who currently has a 25-year lease agreement with the town of Harpswell for a commercial dock off of Wood Landing Road. However, there are some changes in that lease agreement. It's not actually going to end until 2026, so our attorney is advising that we spend more time working on that agreement and getting closer to what the document would be that we can share with the voters before you put that on the warrant. So that is not ready to move forward, and we're going to recommend that that not be on the March 2025 warrant. Let's just go through this document quickly, and then we can get to the specific bulletin items. I think the next item that changed from an earlier review was Article 8. We found that Maine Municipal Association went up a couple $100 in their membership area. Article 22, the staff recommended you put more money into health insurance based on some of our newer employees and their elections for coverage. Article 23, the staff had recommended, or the administration had recommended, a comparative wage and salary study. In order to retain and attract new employees, we really have to look at
Right.
how we are kind of related to what's going on in the market, both the wage, salary, and the benefit piece, if we're going to be able to attract and retain good people here. Article 25, we were recommending putting more money into the old townhouse account so that we can have the stones in the graveyard professionally cleaned. Article 26 is a new one, and maybe we can get to that when we go through the bulleted points, but it's to consider a new town dock at Potts Point. Article 30, we added an explanatory note that the money from the capital roads account is expected to be used to undertake and complete Peabody Road and then rebuild parts of Little Island Road and Ocean Street, including the embankment at Ocean Street. So we're planning to use town money and then in discussions about getting reimbursed from FEMA for Little Island and for Ocean Street. But of course, we don't have any commitment at this point for certain that that will happen. Article 34, we had been asked previously, kind of through fire and rescue related discussions, that the town's reserve account for emergency services vehicles should be written in a way that it can be used for equipment and accessories that relate to the vehicle. So we've just tried to clarify that. Article 43 is a new one. the New England Fishermen's Stewardship Association came to the select board and asked for the town of Harpswell to provide $5,000 to the organization. So that's in there. And I do think before the end of the evening, we need to make sure we know which articles are recommended by the board, because I think there was a split vote or an abstention on
Yes,
that
there
one
was, yes.
that we might want to reflect. And so I think that's sort of the shape of the warrant at the moment, and then we do have some further articles to get to. Terry, would you like to just talk a little bit about the use of fund balance? Would you mind just reviewing how we calculate that?
So you were provided a memo that outlines the town's current policy, and of course, our 2024 financials are done, so we do know what our unassigned general fund balance at the end of 2024 was just under $4.2 million. And based on the policy, the target balance is to maintain 2 months' worth of expenditures. And based on having just under 4.2, the target balance maintaining of expenditures would be 2.9 million, which allows us to use 1.2 million. And the proposal at this time that this was written, and there's some changes, possible administrative building article, was just over $1,050,000 for use. So that would comply with the warrant article, but there's some changes with the proposed town dock and the possible administration building article. And as you work through that, we just need to make sure it still complies with this.
So we're currently at 1.1,
1,050,000.
1,050,000, okay. And up to 1 million, 1.2 is
Correct.
the limit, okay.
Correct.
So the current warrant has asked to use $600,000 from the fund balance or unassigned fund balance to reduce the tax commitment, and that's what we did in 2024, and we're asking to do that again in 2025. Currently, we have drafted a warrant article for the town dock, and we're suggesting $250,000 for that. But when that article was drafted, we did not have the proposal that we received this week from Tim Forrester, so that, I think that's something you can talk about. And conceivably, that number can be lowered. We have $200,000 going into our road account, so that comes to the $1,050,000. But tonight, we would like the board to consider continuing the $600,000 to reduce the tax commitment, $200,000 for the capital road project, and then we believe the town dock number can probably come down to about $200,000. I mean, there's a little bit of concern about what's happening, in terms of tariffs and the cost of construction and materials, et cetera. But we think that number should be adequate based on the information we received this week. But the longer we wait, the more it could cost down the road. And then we are suggesting that if the town wants to move forward with the demolition of the administration building, that the voters be asked to authorize up to $230,000 from unassigned fund balance to do that. Now, we do understand there are grants available, but we're using the potential high-end number as a up to, not to exceed number. So if those four numbers stay, as we're proposing, that's $1,230,000. It's very close to the number that we have available. It's a little bit more, but it's within the range of acceptability, so,
Okay.
okay. In terms of estimated revenues, we just want to make sure that people understand, we do look at our revenues and we forecast our revenues, and we have made a forecast for 2025. We're proposing to use $2,609,800 of other revenues. Most of that is from excise fees. That's 1.5 million. Then the others are things like building permits, shellfish licenses fees, franchise fee, recycling center transfer station fees that we collect, We get some other state reimbursements for general assistance from Maine DOT. We get tower lease money, all adding up to that 2.6 million. And that reduces the amount that we have to ask the taxpayers for to pay for the municipal budget. And I know our budget committee was very interested in whether or not the proposed budget was going to be within the LD1 limit, and it is within that limit. The state law no longer requires that a town has to meet that limit, and so therefore there's no vote at the town meeting for that purpose. But the budget committee, and I believe the select board, was interested in knowing if we were complying, and we are. So the next article that you have not discussed that the staff would like to get your input on is a potential article asking the voters to authorize a $6 million bond that would be used to design, construct, and equip a new emergency services building on Mountain Road. There was a public hearing in this room on Tuesday. It was pretty well attended. We also had people participating remotely. It was not a required public hearing, but I think it was a very good process to get input from people. And there's also an additional meeting coming up at the Kellogg Church where the 3 fire departments and the fire chiefs are going to be there talking about the project. So the staff has suggested at this time that the town consider moving forward, or the select board consider moving forward. We've drafted an article. We're suggesting that the town may want to bond this over a 25-year period. Even though that would be in the article, you always have the option when we get to the point of borrowing to reduce that time period if you think that makes sense. But this building is supposed to be built for at least a 30-year period, if not more.
I hope so.
And we suggest that amount could be shared by taxpayers over the next 25 years for a building that will be in service for at least that long, if not longer. So we're looking for your guidance on whether you would like to see that article included in the warrant.
Yes, I thought we could only do a 20-year.
Well, we currently have an internal policy that
Right.
says 20, so that can be changed by the board.
Because it's only a
and-
policy, yeah.
And
Okay.
that's a good point. If you would like this to be structured with a 20-year time frame, we can certainly do that. Or we can put your policy on next week and have you consider,
Why don't we do that?
okay.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
So do we wait on this one till next week, or would you like
No,
our
we need to
decision now?
know
Yeah,
because,
okay,
I mean,
yes.
yeah, we can put that policy on next week and you
Okay.
can amend that so we can use
So-
25 years.
So I would move that we include Article 0 for a $6 million bond for a new central fire and safety facility be put on the warrants.
I second.
Conversation, all in favor?
And do you
And
all
just for-
recommend that article?
Yes, recommend.
Okay.
Yes, all three,
Okay.
yeah.
Yep.
And just go back, I don't know if you need a formal motion to take out Article 5, as you
I think we
suggested.
could replace, if you would like to, I don't think it needs to be formal because this,
You'll put something else in?
yeah, I think
Okay.
we could put this in as Article 5 if you think that's the appropriate location.
Oh, yeah. We'll get to that.
Oh,
I'll-
okay, you want to
I'll-
wait? Okay,
Well, no, as far as where things are going in there.
Yeah.
okay.
The two most discussed articles on the floor will be the comprehensive plan and the fire station.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so if we put it at the end, the crowds will be leaving. so
Yeah, I would recommend the beginning. I think those are major policy
Oh, yeah.
questions for the
Yeah.
town, and so I would absolutely recommend that. And I think, yeah, that is the next question or article we wanted you to talk about is, assuming you want to move forward with that comprehensive plan article, and there is an upcoming public hearing on the comprehensive plan. It's on Saturday, February 22nd. I believe it's at 10 o'clock at
Yes,
Harpswell
Yes.
Community School.
yes.
And that's a requirement. And you will make your final decision on the 27th of February, but I think tonight it's finding out whether you want to include it in the version that's going to the printer, and if so, where do you want to put that? Up front, before the bond article, after the bond article? We
We'll
could
come to
take
the
some
order.
Yeah,
input.
Before. Oh,
Do you want to do the order now, or do we?
I would just ask the staff just to have them right after each other. I don't care which one's
It needs
first.
to be up front.
Yeah,
And you don't have a preference on?
no, get it out of the way early. Probably a better way of putting that.
So you just want us to decide, flip a coin?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, yeah.
Well,
And we get into the money part, starting on Article 6, so maybe comp plan first and then bond.
Okay.
yeah.
And I just have a couple of suggestions for the wording on the note to go with the one on the comp plan.
Yes.
Somewhere include that the information is available also on the town website.
Yes. Would you like it reflected in the printed version that you recommended, or do you prefer to hold off and, because we don't have to put that on there? Do you prefer to hold off until after the public hearing, until after you make a final decision?
I can recommend.
Okay,
Yeah,
David?
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Me? Yeah,
all three of us, yes.
yep.
Okay, the next item, the administration building article. And that, again, is asking the voters to appropriate money from the town's unassigned fund balance up to $230,000 for the demolition of the Mitchell Field Administration Building, including the removal of hazardous materials, and further to authorize the select board to accept and expend any grant funds for this purpose. We have been told by DEP that they have money available. I think the cap might be $50,000, but we are aware that there is some grant funding opportunities there.
I think it's I don't know how we want to do this. I think it's kind of a shame that we're doing this without hearing from the group that would like to remediate and reuse the building. I don't know if we want to put these next to each other, or if one fails, the other one goes, or how do you want to do this? I know we haven't heard from them yet, but
Yeah,
Well, the group's supposed to bring us their plan next week,
next week, yeah.
20th,
Yep.
but
What I would suggest is that we go forward with this, and I think we have two options. One, to put it in the warrant as it is, or as you said earlier, Christie, this is not necessarily the final warrant, to consider this as a warrant item, and after the 20th, make our decision as to whether or not we put it in, but agree that the $230,000 would be part of the budget as well. Yeah.
I'd also like to note that it's $76,000 over our policy for fund balance.
No, we
No,
wouldn't, not if
it's
we
in
reduce
already.
the town dock
Yeah.
figure. We're talking about, we haven't gotten to the
Yeah.
town dock one that's coming
Okay,
up.
so we shall see then, okay.
Christie gave a total earlier.
We'd be about 25,000 above that, and we don't expect to spend the 230, but we think it's safe to put it in there, because we've been told that there's a $50,000 grant program for the removal of hazardous waste at the site.
And maybe I could just make another comment, that I feel it's important that we have this available for this town meeting, because we've got from the Mitchell Field Committee a very strong endorsement for it and recommendation that this be done. The boat launch is going to go in. If we don't have disposition one way or the other of the administration building this year, we surely will have higher cost if we go with demolition. And postponing it for any further time just does not make sense, because it's been on our agenda for so many years. We need to simply make a decision this year.
It's already gone up from $40,000 just a few years ago to $200,000. Yeah.
We don't want it to go any further, do we?
Where would you recommend putting that item? Would you like that near the front? I mean, Mitchell Field is in, what section, Terry? do you-
With the other articles on which you feel.
Oh, it's Mitchell Field's Article 27. So,
Yep.
would you like near Article 27?
Sure.
Yep.
Okay. So to proceed or to follow Article 27?
How about follow? And then-
Follow?
Yeah.
Okay, and so we're only putting the one article. You said something about two, but I think we're just going
Well,
with one.
you're one for now, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And if the board is not comfortable making a recommendation because you haven't received that information, we can just leave that blank on this version.
Yep.
Okay, and so then, the final one is the
Oh,
dock.
the dock.
And so that is Article 26. We also posted on the website the plans that we received this week. Tim Forrester was hired by the town. He's essentially saying if we replace what we have and go, I don't know, maybe 3 feet higher, I can't remember how much higher we're going, it would essentially cost about $130,000 plus $10,000 for permitting, so we're looking at about a $140,000 project. He's also put together a proposal that would widen the dock. It's currently 4 feet, it's been 4 feet, and I think this was a suggestion that came from maybe Harbor and Waterfront Committee, that if we're thinking about rebuilding that dock, that it would make sense to make it 2 feet wider. So Tim Forrester did give us a cost estimate for that. That was $170,000, and the permitting was 10, or no, $160,000 for the dock, and then the permitting is 10, for a total of 170. Now, recently, there's been some discussion about the town needing a longer ramp
Because the dock's higher.
because the dock's higher.
Everything.
We currently have a 40-foot long ramp, I believe, and we're looking at potentially a 50-foot one. And we were quoted a price of like $26,000 for a 50-foot ramp. They suggested we might be able to sell our current ramp for 10. But in any event, I think we're recommending that the town should probably, we could probably reduce that number and go to around 200. But again, I think it's a project we really need to try to get started in 2025 because costs are escalating. Everyone who's giving us estimates now have these little, clauses about, it's very hard to predict where some of these prices are going to be going, so.
Which brings me to a point.
Yeah, sorry.
I've been hearing from a particular constituent whose wife has mobility issues, and so they can only get to their boat by the town dock, which isn't there. However, he's wondering, he has a mooring that he has to register every year. He's wondering if he can get a reduced rate since he won't be able to use his boat.
No, no.
I don't, I think we should pay the
I told him
mooring
that it
rate.
would be a
Yeah.
precedent issue, and he probably
I
wouldn't be
really
able to
don't
do it.
think we're going to get into making those
Yeah.
kind of exceptions. I wouldn't
No,
recommend it.
But
No.
however, if we
No.
can get that dock done this year, that would be great.
Now, it's probably not going to be available for use during the busy season, but we
right.
could at least get it started. And
Right, so I'm afraid he's gonna have to register his mooring even though he can't use it.
Well, the Harbor Waterfront Committee, they were told last night that this is a 2026 deal. It's not going to happen this year. Even with approval.
Wondering about that.
Just
Yeah.
finding a contractor.
Oh,
I think
True.
Ben Wallace built the last one, both Bens.
yeah, I mean, I think there's always this growing concern that the longer we wait, is it going to be enough
Yeah.
money? Now, I will say, We have about $100,000 that went into the general fund from our insurance proceeds. So that's part of this 200,000, the use of those proceeds. And then we're, of course, in discussions with FEMA about what they're willing to reimburse us for, but I don't think they're going to reimburse us to go with a 50-foot-long ramp necessarily. I think that's outside of what they would reimburse us for.
There were
But-
other options. You know, we
Yeah.
can look into adding 10 more feet onto the ramp we already have.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
There's a fellow in town that builds ramps.
Yeah. The other thing I want to say about option 2, and again, the town meeting can kind of weigh in on this too. We'll just have enough money to do either option,
Yeah.
really. But option 2, the one for 160, allows for a float on the south side.
Right.
I don't know if we'll have enough money for the float, but we'll get it permitted so that that float could be added
Yeah.
potentially in 2026 if we needed to.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's what Paul
Yeah.
told the committee last night.
Oh, that makes sense, because I was wondering if we didn't have enough money.
Right.
And we don't want to go back and get another permit.
Right,
We just
right.
want one.
So we would get
Yeah.
the permit for that.
Good,
Yeah.
good.
So if you did reduce that to 200, and we have the 600,000 to reduce the tax commitment, 200,000 for the roads, 200,000 for the dock, and then up to 230 for the building demolition. That puts us at 1,230,000, and our policy is 1,204,000. So we're really like 25,000 in the scheme of things, I think is not
We can-
like
Yeah.
going way beyond what you can do or can
no.
offer up to the voters. And again, we don't expect to spend 230 for the demolition.
And people should know that it's just not recreational boaters. There are commercial guys using that wharf now.
Oh, yeah.
We're
Yes.
using that wharf.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's not just the perception
That is
it's
just recreation,
Yeah.
yes.
So I think we got feedback on everything we need for the moment. Do you agree, or? I think so.
So we're done with that,
Good.
the big bit.
We good with that?
Big-
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, accept donations. Short list, Dave, I can get them.
Okay, go for it.
Richard Gay and Mary Maroney, $150 heating. Elijah Kellogg Church, $200 heating. Nathaniel and Jeannie Wheelwright, $500 heating. Burbine Investment Trust, $250 heating. Sandra Galanka, $100 bandstand. William Cheever, $1,000 heating. Anonymous, $100 heating. And John and Lorna Flynn, $300 heating, for a total of $2,500 heating, $100 for bandstand, for a total of $2,600.
And you move that we accept that.
I just did.
I second it.
All right, all in favor? All right. Reschedule the hearing for the, oh, sorry, comes Mary Ann, yeah, the shellfish capacity study.
I'm pretty sure they got them.
She did a short summary for us.
Marion, they have the February 10th.
They have the February
They do.
10th, wonderful. Okay, I'm just going to make sure everybody can hear me. Good evening, I'm Mary Ann May. Here tonight, we got a Marine Resources Committee application for a shellfish capacity study. I apologize that it isn't in the complete form. However, but we are working with the Mid-Coast Council of Governments. They are going to administer the form, and we are working together to get it written. What I'd like to do tonight, though, is to just go over how we're breaking it out, the background. This is similar, it's the same project we talked about a month ago. We were invited by the Maine Outdoor Heritage Fund to apply a full application. Knowing that they only award up to $30,000. We've taken the original project and broken it into two scopes. And we're going to take the first phase tonight, which is going to take care of the data collection and field verification. That takes about a year, and the feeling is that's the important part. We can get started on that, and then we will continue to look for funding to fund the balance.
So wait, you just want to fund task number 3 tonight? That's what you're asking about?
Tasking to fund data collection and field verification, which the grant on page 5 shows as cost without
This
model.
is huge.
Yeah,
Yes,
yep.
Yep,
yes,
Okay.
yep.
Okay,
total, yeah.
great. So basically, how we are going to fund this, basically, is figuring $30,000 for the grant. We are going to get in kind because Paul Plummer, the harbor master, is going to take the data collectors to the site. And so there's going to be the cost of the boat that we are providing, as well as the labor for who's running the boat. We're working on that cost right now to see what that comes up to be. Secondly, we're going to have in-kind administrative costs from MCOG, who is administrating the program. There'll be our costs that we have here. Again, got to figure the hours on that. And then the third item will be, we've talked with the Resiliency Committee, and they have voted to go up to $6,000 to make up the difference. So ideally, once we get the costs from Paul and the administrative costs, the difference then would be filled in by Spira.
Question, Mary Ann, is the grant, it would be for 30,000 or up to 30,000? Do we know at this
Well-
point what the amount of the grant is likely to be?
It depends how they lay it out. We're going to ask for $35,009,
Okay,
and then we would make up the difference
okay,
in
those
kind,
ways, yeah.
in those ways, so that it probably is going to come up that they would then give us 30.
okay. But the Spira funds would fill that gap
They will
between
fill
whatever
the-
the grant is and the 35.9?
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay.
We have letter of support from Bowdoin Coastal Study Center. We expect a letter of support from Dr. Lisa Milk of NOAA, who was interested in supporting shellfish capacity studies. We have a letter of support from the town of Bath, because we think that they may have some input on this, on the new meadows. And, yeah, so
And
what am I missing?
our committees, aquaculture or marine resource?
Yes, we would like to get the aquaculture working group and the marine resources to weigh in on that as well.
Yeah.
So what I'm asking for tonight is,
I was about to ask you that.
was
I was
for you
waiting.
to approve the application for $30,000 from, I'm going to say, from grant funders, and up to $6,000 from Spira. And allow Christie to sign the final application when it's finished on Tuesday.
I so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good job.
Mary Ann, do you know when the awards are going to be?
No.
Oh, okay, I'm just
I think about
curious.
3 months,
3 months,
Oh,
okay.
there you go.
because they would be able to start this summer.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
All right, now reschedule the public hearing for Curtis Memorial Library.
And the reason for rescheduling, we didn't get the notice out to the public that we needed to. So we're asking that you reschedule that public hearing for next Thursday at 6:30.
Yep.
Here,
Yes,
I'm assuming.
At the
yes,
meeting.
here.
All right, I so move.
Yeah. there we
Second.
go. All in favor?
Great, thank you.
Public comment? Ben, you got anything? Oh, you're it.
He dasn't.
Other business? I don't know, yeah, I can talk about this. We, was talking to the Harbor and Waterfront Committee and the Aquaculture Working Group, and about having the Aquaculture Working Group be its own committee that will handle the LPAs and all the other licenses come along. These people are more stakeholders than the Harbor and Waterfront Committee is. And they all think it's a wonderful idea. It's a good group, aquaculture group, you know, they.
Would they give their recommendation to the harbor master? Because isn't it the harbor master that actually fills out the form?
Yep,
Okay.
yep, yep. Yeah,
So the current process is he gets input from Harbor and Waterfront Committee?
Right.
But you think that might shift once you
we'll shift to the
decide to,
aquaculture,
okay. Do
committee.
you want that on an upcoming agenda?
I think so.
Okay.
We took a poll, and the Harbor and Waterfront Committee were fine with it.
Okay.
And a lot of people in the aquaculture committee they think it's a great idea. Yeah.
Right, and
In the beginning, we were kind of waiting for the thing just to die. We weren't getting anywhere. Then all of a sudden, it took off. And, you know, we got things done. You know, Darcy Kuchar is just
She's doing a
a
great
big help.
job.
Yeah.
So should we look at revising the mission statement of that group and making it a standing committee? Is that what you're?
Yes.
yes, yeah,
Yep.
good, it makes sense.
Yep. That's all I got. Anything else or other business down there?
Just to make a comment that you spoke about a second meeting to discuss the central fire facility and at Kellogg Church in the afternoon. Encourage people who perhaps haven't been able to attend
Yep.
or hear the story behind the warrant article, that it would be a good opportunity to hear, because it was, I think, last Tuesday was an excellent meeting. A lot of very good information was shared.
So that's
It's at-
February 23rd, Sunday at 3 o'clock at the Kellogg Church.
Thank you for the date, yeah.
3 p.m., Sunday the 23rd.
And
Thank you for that point, Selectman Covey. I encourage anybody who couldn't attend the hearing also, in addition to joining Elijah Kellogg Church, you can watch the replay of the video on the town's YouTube
great,
channel.
great.
And the TV's YouTube channel.
All right, if there's nothing else, we're adjourned.